Ethan Caldwell lived his life by the clock. Every second accounted for, every deal timed down to the minute. He was the man whose name glowed at the top of skyscrapers, whose phone never stopped ringing, whose smile was practiced and polite. But lately, time had begun to feel heavy. The noise of the city no longer thrilled him. The skyline he'd once conquered now looked like a cage made of glass and light. When his assistant reminded him of yet another gala in Chicago, he simply nodded. He'd go, of course. He always did. Success didn't wait for tired hearts. That night, as rain slanted across the highway, Ethan drove with one hand on the wheel and the other clutching a cup of coffee gone cold. His Bluetooth kept blinking. His phone kept buzzing. He ignored both. Then, without warning, the engine coughed. Once, twice, and died. The dashboard went dark. The world fell silent except for the rain. Ethan frowned, tapping the gas. Nothing. He stepped out, the cold biting his face, and stared down the empty road. There was nothing but trees, mist, and a wooden sign half hidden by vines. He brushed away the leaves and squinted at the faded paint. Welcome to Maple Hollow, population 812. He almost laughed. It sounded like something out of an old postcard. But as he looked past the sign, he saw a faint glow in the distance, warm and steady, like candlelight cutting through fog. He hesitated only a moment before walking toward it. The town appeared slowly, as though the night itself had been hiding it. Porch lights flickered. Pumpkins glowed on every doorstep. Laughter echoed faintly, children's voices, somewhere behind the fog. The air smelled of cinnamon and smoke, and something else, something comforting. Maple Hollow didn't look real. It looked like the kind of place people dreamed about, and forgot upon waking. Ethan followed the sound of soft music until he reached a narrow street lined with shops. Most were dark, but one shone brighter than the rest. A small sign swung gently in the wind. The Hollow Light. Through the window, he could see shelves of candles and tiny carved pumpkins that seemed to shimmer from within. He pushed open the door. A bell chimed softly, and warmth wrapped around him like a blanket. For a moment, he just stood there, letting the cold drip away. Then he heard her voice. "Rough night?" She stood behind the counter, her hair tucked loosely behind one ear, light catching strands of copper and gold. Her eyes, steady, kind, and curious, met his, and he forgot whatever excuse he was about to give. "My car died," he managed. And apparently, so did the tow trucks. No signal. She smiled. "Then you found the only place still awake." He glanced around. "What is this place?" "A candle shop," she said, though the way she said it made it sound like something more.
"I'm Lily Kropka."
"Ethan," he replied, accepting the mug of steaming cider she handed him. He took a sip. It was warm, sweet, and somehow alive. She leaned on the counter. "You look like someone who hasn't stopped in a while." He laughed softly. "Stopping doesn't fit in my schedule." "Maybe it should." He met her gaze, surprised. "And why's that?" "Because when you stop," she said, "you notice things. Like how good the rain sounds. Or how tired you've been." Ethan set the mug down and exhaled slowly. "You sound like someone who's never worked a 12-hour day." "Oh, I've had my share of long nights," she said with a smile. "But I learned a secret." "And what's that?" She gestured to the shelves. "Candles burn out faster when you never let them rest." Outside, the wind shifted. The rain softened to a hush. Ethan felt something change, a stillness he hadn't felt in years. He wandered through the shop, reading labels: Harvest Moon, Memory Flame, Whispering Oak. Each candle glowed faintly, like it was breathing. "Do they all flicker like that?" he asked. "Only on nights like this," Lily said. "Halloween makes Maple Hollow a little strange. Some people say the town wakes up, that it opens itself to anyone who's lost their way." "Lost?" he repeated. "I know exactly where I am." "Do you?" she asked softly. Something in her voice made him pause. He looked around, the gentle light, the scent of apples, the calm in the air. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't sure he did. They talked until the clock struck midnight. She told him stories about the town, about people who arrived by accident and left lighter somehow. He told her about the city, how it chewed people up, how success came with its own kind of loneliness. She listened, really listened, the way no one had in years. When the bell tolled 12, she stood. "Come with me," she said. They stepped outside. The rain had stopped, and the fog had thinned. The air glowed, not from streetlights, but from hundreds of pumpkins carved along the road, their flickering light dancing on the cobblestones. She led him to the town square, where the fountain shimmered under the moon. "Make a wish," she whispered. He smiled. "I'm not 10. Then wish for something real." He looked at her, the quiet confidence in her eyes, the soft curls framing her face, and felt something stir in his chest. He closed his eyes. And for the first time in years, he wished for nothing more than to stay. When he opened them, the square was empty. No lanterns. No pumpkins. Just the echo of rain and the faint scent of cinnamon. He turned, searching. Lily. Nothing. He ran back to the hollow light. But where the warm glow had been, there was only darkness. The windows were shuttered. The sign was faded. He pressed a hand to the door. It creaked open to reveal dust and silence. No candles. No cider. No worms. Only one small pumpkin on the counter, still glowing faintly. Carved into its surface were 4 words. Sometimes, what's real returns. Ethan stood there, the glow reflecting in his eyes, and for the first time in his life, he didn't think about where he had to be next. He just stood still. The air outside hummed faintly, like a promise. And somewhere, beyond the fog, he thought he heard her voice. Soft, laughing, familiar. "See you next Halloween." A year passed, but Ethan never stopped hearing her voice. Soft, amused, and impossibly calm. "See you next Halloween." He told himself it was just the exhaustion, the isolation, maybe even a dream born out of rain and loneliness. But when autumn returned, he began to feel restless. The sound of traffic no longer filled the silence. The city lights looked artificial, harsh, hollow. On Halloween morning, without really deciding to, he packed a small bag. No tuxedo, no laptop. Just a sweater, a coat, and a strange kind of hope he hadn't felt in years. The road out of New York felt endless, until it didn't. By late evening, the fog thickened. And then, there it was again, the sign, half hidden by vines, waiting for him like an old friend. "Welcome to Maple Hollow, population 812. He smiled for the first time in weeks. Let's see if the magic's still real. Maple Hollow looked exactly the same. The amber lights, the pumpkins, the laughter floating from somewhere behind the mist. But this time, he didn't feel like a stranger walking through it. He felt like someone coming home. And when he turned the corner onto Main Street, his breath caught. The hollow light was glowing again. Warm. Golden. Alive. He pushed the door open, half afraid the illusion would shatter. It didn't. The same bell chimed softly. The same warmth rushed over him. And then, her voice. "I was wondering when you'd find your way back." Lily stood behind the counter, her hair tied loosely this time, a few curls escaping to frame her face. She looked just as she had before, maybe even softer, more luminous, as though time hadn't touched her at all. Ethan exhaled, a sound somewhere between laughter and disbelief. "You're real." She smiled, tilting her head. "You sound surprised." "I came back last year," he said. "You weren't here." She nodded. The hollow light only opens when someone truly needs it. "And this time?" he asked quietly. Her eyes lifted to meet his. "This time, it's not the shop that needs to open." She handed him a mug of cider, the same golden warmth, the same faint sweetness of apples and spice. He sipped it slowly, not wanting to break the moment. "This town," he said, looking around, "it's like time doesn't touch it." Maybe it doesn't, she said softly. Maple Hollow remembers what the world forgets. The rhythm of the seasons. The patience of waiting. The way people look at each other when they stop rushing. He smiled faintly. You really believe that? I live it. He looked down at the cup in his hands, watching the steam rise and disappear. I don't even know what I'm doing here, he said finally. Yes, you do, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. When he looked up, her expression was steady, kind, but beneath it, something else shimmered. Something tender. The rain started again outside, gentle and rhythmic against the window. Lily lit a few candles, their flames painting soft halos of light across the walls. Ethan watched her move, the way her hands lingered over the matches, the quiet grace in every gesture. She had a way of existing that made the rest of the world seem louder by comparison. Do you ever leave Maple Hollow? He asked after a while. She smiled without looking up. Some of us belong to places, Ethan. Not the other way around. That sounds lonely. It isn't, she said. It just means I stay where I'm needed. He hesitated. And right now? She finally turned to him, her voice softer than the rain. Right now, you need to remember how to feel. They walked through the town together later that night. The fog had thinned to a silver veil, and the pumpkins glowed brighter than before. Laughter drifted from windows, faint music from somewhere unseen. At the edge of the square, the old clock tower chimed 11 times. Lily stopped, her lantern casting warm circles of light around them. Do you ever wish you could start over? She asked. Ethan thought about it. Every day. She nodded slowly. Then maybe that's why you're here. He laughed softly. You really think some small town in the middle of nowhere can fix me? No, she said, eyes glinting. But maybe I can. They stood under the lantern light, silence stretching between them, comfortable, expectant. The glow painted gold into her eyes. Ethan felt something stir in his chest, not the rush of infatuation, but the quiet ache of recognition. Lily, he said finally, what is this place? Why does it feel like a dream I can't wake up from? Because, she whispered, some dreams aren't meant to end. They're meant to be found. She took a step closer, close enough that he could smell the faint sweetness of clove and honey on her skin. He could hear his heartbeat, louder than the rain. And then, without words, she reached up and brushed a raindrop from his cheek. The town seemed to hold its breath. Every lantern flickered once, as if the air itself had sighed. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then she spoke, voice trembling like light itself. When you leave this time, the world will feel heavier, quieter. But if you come back again, come back because you want to stay. Stay? She nodded. Maple Hollow doesn't open for the lost twice without reason. He wanted to ask what that meant, but she was already stepping back into the mist. Lily, her voice drifted back to him, soft and certain. Find your way, Ethan. I'll keep the lantern lit. When he woke the next morning, the town was silent. The shop stood empty once more. But this time, there was no pumpkin, no note, only a single lantern burning in the window. Its flame glowed steady, golden, alive. And for the first time in years, Ethan knew what it meant to miss someone before they were even gone. He whispered into the quiet air, I'll find my way back. The next 12 months passed like a dream that refused to fade. Ethan tried to return to the rhythm of his old life, the skyline, the meetings, the endless voices that all sounded the same. But something in him had changed. He still worked, still smiled in photographs, still signed contracts with practiced precision. But every evening, when the city went quiet, he found himself lighting a candle. One of Lily's candles. Its scent, apple and cedar, would fill his apartment until it almost felt like her shop again. And when the flame flickered, just before it burned low, he swore he could hear her voice. Find your way, Ethan. I'll keep the lantern lit. October came again. The air cooled, the leaves turned, and the city's rhythm grew restless. But Ethan felt something different this time, a pull, gentle but steady, like a thread tightening around his heart. He didn't pack much. Just a single bag, a wool coat, and the candle she'd given him. When he placed it on the passenger seat, it flickered once, even though the window was closed. He smiled. "All right. Let's go home." The road to Maple Hollow was darker this time, or maybe his memory had brightened it too much. But when the fog began to swirl around the car, he knew. He slowed down. And there it was. The wooden sign, perfectly repainted, gleaming faintly under the moonlight. "Welcome to Maple Hollow, population 812. He parked, stepped out, and took a deep breath. The scent of autumn rushed to meet him, cinnamon, rain, and something faintly electric, like the air before a heartbeat. The town was alive again. Lanterns swayed in the breeze. Pumpkins glowed in lines of soft gold. Children laughed as they ran from porch to porch, their costumes fluttering like sparks of joy in the mist. And just ahead, down the familiar street, the hollow light. Ethan froze. It was open. Truly open. Candles burned in the window. Warm light spilled into the fog. For a long moment, he couldn't move. Then, quietly, he whispered, "I knew you'd keep it burning." He pushed the door open. The same bell chimed softly. The same warmth folded around him. Only this time, the air was stiller, charged somehow, like the town was holding its breath. The shop looked the same, yet different. Brighter, alive in a way he couldn't explain. He took a slow step inside. "Lily." No answer. He called again, softer. "Lily, it's me." Then, from the back room, a door creaked. And there she was. She stepped into the light, her face illuminated by the soft flicker of dozens of candles. She wore the same simple dress, the same calm smile, but something in her eyes had changed. They were deeper, like they carried stars. "You found me again," she said. He exhaled a shaky laugh. "You sound surprised." "I hoped," she said. "But hope and knowing aren't the same." He stepped closer. "You told me to come back when I was ready to stay. And are you?" "I've been ready since the night I left." The silence between them was warm. He wanted to reach for her, but something held him still, a reverence, a fear that she might fade again. Why does this town only appear once a year? He asked quietly. She smiled faintly. Because Maple Hollow isn't just a place. It's a moment. A heartbeat the world forgets. Every Halloween, it opens, to those who've lost something they can't name. "And what about you?" He asked. "Why do you stay?" "I am the keeper of that light," she said softly. "The lantern that calls them home." He frowned. "That sounds like you're trapped here." Her smile deepened, tender, almost sad. "I'm not trapped.
I'm rooted."
Like a flame that only burns where it was lit. Ethan stepped closer until only inches separated them. "Then let me stay too." "Ethan." She started, shaking her head slightly. "You don't belong to Maple Hollow." "I don't belong to the world out there either," he said. "Not anymore. Everything I thought I wanted, it all feels hollow without you." Her breath caught, her eyes glistening. He reached up and brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "I don't care if this town is real or magic or caught between both," he said softly. "It's the only place I've ever felt alive." For a long, trembling moment, she said nothing. Then she took his hand and led him toward the door. Outside, the fog was glowing faintly. Lanterns lined the road, one after another, their flames steady in the wind. "Do you see them?" She whispered. He nodded. "They are beautiful. They're the hearts of those who stayed. Each one found their way home. And if I stay..." She looked up at him, her voice barely a breath. "Then your light will join them." He stared into her eyes, the world around them softening, the lanterns burning brighter. In that moment, He realized something he hadn't before. He didn't care what staying meant. He only knew what leaving would cost. He took her face in his hands, his voice steady. I've been running my whole life. And I didn't even know what from. But I do now. I've been running from this. From what? She whispered. From love that feels real enough to stop time. Her tears shimmered in the lantern light. And then she smiled, that same gentle, luminous smile that first pulled him out of the dark. Then stop running, she said. When their lips met, the lanterns around them flared in unison, gold and amber and soft silver. The fog lifted. The night hummed. And for a heartbeat that stretched into forever, Maple Hollow shone brighter than it ever had before. The next morning, the town was quiet again. The shop stood open, sunlight pouring through the windows. Lily moved between the shelves, arranging candles, humming softly. Ethan stepped in from the doorway, a warm mug of cider in his hand. He smiled. Morning. Morning, she said, smiling back. You slept well? Better than I have in years. Good, she said. It means the Hollow accepts you. He raised an eyebrow. Is that what this is? Acceptance. She laughed softly. No. It's love, Ethan. This town only keeps what it loves. He stepped forward and kissed her forehead. Then I'm exactly where I belong. Years later, people still whispered about the man who wandered into Maple Hollow and never left. Some said the town stole him. Others said it saved him. And if you drive far enough down an old forgotten road, you might find that same wooden sign, Welcome to Maple Hollow, population 812. But look closely. Because sometimes, when the fog clears and the pumpkins glow, you'll see two figures standing under the lantern light, a woman with eyes like autumn, and the man who finally learned to stop running. And if you listen closely, you might hear her voice on the wind. Find your way. The light is waiting.